Hey, how you doing, listeners? This is Gina Versa here with Serving Up Comics. It's a really fun episode. We're back from small hiatus, I guess, but we're back to talk the Spider-Man PS4 game in anticipation for Spider-Man 2. I guess it's Marvel Spider-Man 2. And I had some good experts on Spider-Man. They do a podcast. My two good friends, Jack and Henry, from that 90s Spider-Man show. How you guys doing?
I'm
Pretty
doing
good,
good.
actually.
Yeah. I think one of us was waiting for the other one to go first then, and then we both spoke at the same time anyway.
Yeah,
No, it's
we're
all good.
great at this remote thing. It's doing great.
Yeah, finish each other's sandwiches.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, if anyone wants to listen to us talk over each other, that's what our podcast is anyway.
Oh yeah.
This is advertisement.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a great podcast. I listen to it. If anyone else hasn't listened to it, please give it a listen. It's fun talking about the animated show from the 90s, which I love. Growing up, that was my show. It was one of my
Yeah.
stories. And
Mhm.
yeah, you guys are getting through the show, like getting through the series, and have like really cool like side episodes on like all the lore, all the bullshit.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I know, Henry, you're just like eternally like frustrated with all the lore
Yeah.
the Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Like I could be drinking throughout the episodes. I could lose fewer brain cells.
Yeah, I'm slowly like making it more and more likely that Henry never like reads a Spider-Man comic.
Oh.
Yeah. It's at the
Which
point now
probably
where
shouldn't
someone's
be. Yeah, I mean, I guess maybe I should be trying to convince him to share in something that I love, but I
Mhm.
think I'm doing the opposite work by telling him about all the most insane things
Mhm.
that don't make any sense.
Yeah, there's so much like crazy shit in those comics. I was just thinking like you guys talk about like Strategian, the dinosaur man. Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
How
yeah.
can we forget the dinosaur man?
Where the yeah,
Yeah,
he has yeah, he doesn't he's
He
just
doesn't
like the
want to do a
lizard.
monster. Yeah.
hmm He's like the lizard, but a
yeah,
dinosaur.
yeah.
He was still a
He
monster, right? This.
hmm
yeah, there's a lot of wild stuff, and we haven't even got into like some of the biggest, wildest stuff.
Yeah.
We'll be
It's
getting into
crazy, I
some of
think.
those later this year, actually,
Yeah.
and that's a tease for listeners and a warning for Henry.
I was gonna say, is that a threat?
I think so. Yeah. Oh man. Like God, there's just like, stuff from like what were they thinking? Like I guess it's kind of like well first thing I guess because I guess it was going around again, the 9/11 tribute
It's disgusting.
comic where it's like Doctor
Right.
Doom and Juggernaut,
Yeah.
even though the Juggernaut destroyed one of the towers in the 90s.
That was the funniest realization. Someone making that connection recently and being like, "Oh yeah, I read that." I think it's like one of the. I think it's a Rob Liefeld
Yep.
X Force comic.
hmm
He yeah, and yeah, he's very like head bowed in grief over 9/11.
Yeah.
I think I would love to do a weird lore episode on that 9/11 comic. I
Yes.
think, but I think there's plenty to do, and if and I just think it's probably a really bad idea for me to do a 9/11 centric episode, especially as two British guys talking about it. I
Yeah.
don't think it will go down quite as well.
I
Um,
think it'd be
but
great. I
yeah,
think
yeah, of course you would.
yeah.
God, yeah, that's it was a very weird time in comics. Very weird time.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But I guess going off of that, has anyone read any interesting comics? I know the recent Spider-Man run is both uh blowing up all the time on Twitter and then also just scorned at. I'm not sure if anyone's reading that, but yeah.
Yeah, I'm I've actually recently stopped reading that.
hmm
Um, I'm always 6 months behind because I read on modern comics on Marvel Unlimited, and they don't have the they go like I think they're
Oh.
currently like up to like the summer or something at the
hmm
moment. Um, but yeah, that current run, I bowed out. I might go back, but I
Tapped
I
out.
Yeah, at a point I was like, this is not like the curiosity is not worth like the discomfort of reading.
Yeah.
And so I went to my happy place, which is reading the Amazing Spider-Man comics that the first ones I started
Ooh.
reading when I started like getting deep into reading consistently, which was the J. Michael Straczynski, John Romita Jr.
Hmm.
comics from the early 2000s, which include actually that 9/11 issue we were
Right.
talking about.
Yeah.
But that is, there are anomalies in that run that are
Mhm.
not so good. In fact,
Yeah.
some very infamous, not so good ones in there.
Yeah,
But
they
the
had
the
to.
section
Mhm.
I'm at is just like incredible storytelling, and I mean, a lot of it is nostalgia, but there's just like really just two creatives like who are at the top of their game, like
Mhm.
excellent comic timing, but then also just like really good like writing, a lot of original ideas and stuff like that. So I'm really enjoying reading that, and then
Mhm.
on a I guess on topic for today, I'm still reading Venom comics,
Oh, okay.
um, which is still surprising to me, seeing as I like never really liked Venom.
Mhm. Like
It was
Sam
always one
Raimi,
of
you didn't like him either.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I was on board with that.
Hmm.
I've never I like Venom how he was introduced. And then once he stuck around for a while, and they were like, "Oh, what do we do with this guy? I guess he's an anti-hero now."
Yeah.
From there on, I stopped caring.
Yeah.
Um, I don't like most of the symbiote stuff. Uh, and but then Donny Cates made it interesting again for me. And then I carried on reading for this new run by Al. I don't know how to say his name. Al Ewing.
I think
Um,
you're right. Yeah.
yeah, and I was like, I'm just gonna keep going until this like stops being fun and it's still interesting,
Yeah.
and it's like, but it's also getting like more and more bizarre, but like in a fun way.
Oh,
Like
okay.
for a little bit of our context thing for
Hmm.
anyone who has no idea what's going on currently, like Eddie, where I'm at the comic, Eddie Brock is like lost in time, and
Okay.
he's like literally kicking his own ass.
Huh.
Cool.
So yeah, it's getting like pretty freaky and wild and like mind bendy. And
Yeah.
I'm super down for it, and I'm like, yeah, as soon as this gets like really dumb, then
Hmm.
I'll jump ship, but
Drop
it's
it.
it's still
Drop it.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's good. Yeah, because it's like I feel because I haven't read all of that run, but I like what they're doing with Venom because it's like what they don't allow with Spider-Man, which is like letting him like age and grow or like have a
yeah,
kid or
yeah.
mature, you know?
It's actually a remarkable thing, um, especially in the Donny Cates comics because they got very big
Hmm.
in scale. But at the end of the day, like they were like really satisfying because you realized they really took Eddie Brock and gave him like a redemption arc that kind of maybe took I don't know what, like 25, 30 years.
Yeah.
Uh and I was like, oh yeah, that's what you can do with this amount of time with a series if it isn't your flagship character who
Yeah.
has to be perfect in every way,
Yeah.
and
Can
it's
never.
mandated that
Mhm.
they do things in a very specific way and never change.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can't do it. Yeah. That sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not a good mandate. Henry, have you been reading anything?
So recently I finished a master's degree, and
Mhm. Oh,
as
congrats.
thank you. It was very existentially weird, and in the
Okay.
wake of that, I've decided, like, since I've done so much readings for that, that I'm not going to read
Mhm.
anything.
Oh, okay.
No, like, no
Uh-huh.
text. Like, I watched a Star Wars movie and I just skipped the opening crawl. Stop reading.
Like you have you played Animal
So-
Crossing and you're just like skipping everything? Animal
Yeah,
Crossing?
I didn't even get that far. Because I saw the
Yeah.
product description and I was like, nah, not doing it.
All
Can't read
right.
titles anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I can read like half a title, maybe not a subtitle, and that's it. Really.
Yeah.
I've got my name down as Henry S because I'm not writing down the whole second name that I have. but in all seriousness, I need to get back into comics. Actually, I've like taken a bit of a break. I've got a Spider Punk comic that you
Oh
might
yeah.
be familiar with that I've got to work my way through.
Okay.
But yeah,
Yeah.
no, yeah, I need to get back into reading. I need to get back
Yeah.
into a lot
Yes.
of things, but yeah.
Spider-Punk is excellent in the comics.
Yeah. He's been on the I guess on the radar recently because blew up from Beyond the Spider-Verse or Across the Spider-Verse. Yeah.
Mhm.
I still need to see that actually. Just that's how
Oh.
far behind I am in like culture.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
great. Yeah.
Henry was
Uh
out there getting an education whilst we were reading comics and watching movies about
watching
sparkly heroes.
yeah.
I could have been doing that shit, honestly. I
Hmm.
feel like Tobey Maguire in that first Spider movie where he's like running after that bus, but
Hmm.
the version of that before he got the powers.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just a bus full of different like IPs and properties and you're just
Hmm.
falling behind because
Yeah,
you didn't keep up with your homework.
Yeah.
yeah. I
Yeah.
was screaming, "Wait for me!" and like no one's. They were like making fun of me.
Kevin Feige is driving the bus, so he's not
Yeah.
slowing down.
Yeah.
Avi
It's like
Arad is making jerk off signals out of the back of the bus.
someone would
Yeah,
who trips you when you go on the bus? It's like Amy Pascal or something.
probably Amy Pascal.
Yeah. She'll throw a
Somehow, like
sand.
maybe
Mhm.
Mark Webb. Just like,
Oh yeah, he's there too. Where it's like Amy throws a sandwich too.
yeah.
Remember she threw a sandwich? That's crazy. But yeah, I've been I think I just really the comic I got really into was the Riddler Year One, which was written by
Cool.
Paul Dano, ties into the Batman. So that
That's so
one's
interesting.
yeah, that
As a
one's been
concept.
mhm,
He's
it's
a great
very
Riddler.
cool. Yeah, it's like I guess he wrote like a lot of backstory that had to go somewhere.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would
Mm.
recommend that as my only thing. But yeah, going off of that, we're talking about Spider-Man, the PS4 game, but there were many Spider-Man games before that, which those walked so this game could run. Uh, just going off of that, did you guys have what consoles did you have like growing up that you would like play these games? Anything that you were like really like loved a certain console or anything?
So my first console was a PlayStation, well, the very first original PlayStation,
Hmm.
which I remember getting on my 5th birthday and playing a lot of it because I think I had chicken pox
Oh,
like
okay.
on my birthday, and I would
Hmm.
just like play the wrestling game over and over again. And then also I had like an N64, and I think I rode those basically to hell for my first couple of consoles. But yeah, I think PlayStation, Nintendo was where I kind of divided my time up until I was maybe 16 and got my first Xbox. But
Oh,
yeah, that's
nice.
basically how it's broken down. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Mhm.
Unfortunately for you, you picked the console that didn't have the Spider-Man exclusives. You should have known in advance.
to be fair, they had it for a time, and then they were like, no, no, no more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I found out the other day that apparently,
Hmm.
like Spider-Man like series could have been on Xbox. Xbox were like Microsoft were basically like, nah, don't feel like it. They offered it to Microsoft first, apparently,
Wow.
and Microsoft just turned it down for some reason.
Wow.
Pretty. That's I guess that was dumb.
That was fuck up.
Yeah.
I love a Halo game instead. Just be
Hmm.
playing that
Jack, what consoles did you have?
So I'm like the youngest of I have two older siblings, and
Hmm.
so what happened is that they had PlayStations, and then I just got like the Game Boy or whatever, and I could play their PlayStation sometimes. So I was big on like the Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance, and then the first like proper console I got was the GameCube.
Oh, nice. Very underrated.
Yeah,
Love
yeah, I
that
love the
GameCube.
GameCube. And I stuck with Nintendo. Well, I've stuck with Nintendo ever since. But then at some point, like I got the PS3, and then I got the PS4 and 5. So because I knew in advance that the Spider-Man games would become exclusive, I saw the future.
Yeah.
And
Oh.
so yeah,
Hmm.
I actually, on the GameCube, I think one the first two games I bought for it, like when I got the console, was I got Super Smash Bros. Melee
Mm.
and Spider-Man the movie, the game.
Oh, the game. Yeah, the first one.
Yeah,
That one's
which
mhm,
yeah, I mean, I hesitate to call it a good game,
right.
um, but it's I do think it's like one of those things that people forget about just because the web slinging in Spider-Man 2, the movie, the game,
Mhm.
was such a big deal.
Yeah.
That people sleep on that first one a little bit. It has some
Mhm.
good stuff going on. I remember the cutscenes in it like blowing my mind at the time. I
Oh
was
yeah.
like, nothing will ever look ever like any better than this right now. Like,
Yeah.
and you look back now and it's like, yeah, we did come some way.
Yeah.
Um, but there was some wild stuff going in there. There was a cheat code where you could play as like the Willem Dafoe Green Goblin.
Oh no, it was
Um,
yeah, it was like Harry as Goblin, and you could like they had
Oh,
like additional like dialogue as like Harry, he takes over as Goblin.
that's
oh
cool.
wow,
Yeah, I
yeah.
remember that.
Yeah, it was it was a wild one. But yeah, so I mean and all those consoles I had, I would have got Spider-Man games cuz I was big on Spider-Man before I ever read a comic,
Hmm.
which, part of the reason we did Spider-Man the Animated Series as a podcast was
Hmm.
because it is a very nostalgic thing for us. It was like probably like our introduction to the character, or at least our a defining thing for understanding like what was going on
Yeah.
with
Mm,
that guy. Um and yeah, so then from that point on, like, yeah, if I was getting like a Game Boy game or a PS2 game or whatever it was, like there was all yeah, I was always getting the Spider-Man games for it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, they yeah, like I feel like there was a game for pretty much every generation of console. Um but yeah, just going off of that, I think for me, yeah, I grew up with mainly yeah, Nintendo, GameCube, and then I became loyal to the PlayStation after a while. But yeah, the game's like kind of for Spider-Man, because I think that movie, the game is like interesting, even though it's like the web, you're just like shooting into the sky. Remember?
Yeah.
He's just like he has like nothing it's connecting to. But yeah, I think like
Hmm.
the big game for me was Spider-Man 2, the movie, the game, because it's like
Hmm.
yeah, the web mechanics, but then also the fact it was like open world too, like Grand Theft
Yeah.
Auto.
yeah.
Yeah, like that was interesting. I don't know. I don't think like for a superhero game they ever had that before. Even though
Hmm.
kind of like looking back, there wasn't really too much to do, right? Around the
No.
city.
That is a clear one of like the nostalgia glasses a bit, because you do go back and you see like the combat and
Hmm.
like what there actually is to do in the missions, and
Yeah.
it has dated so much.
Hmm.
um
Yeah.
but I remember the day it came out, and everyone, me and my friends at school, us all like knowing that after school, like, would we be able to get a copy of the game? Would it sell out? Would we have to wait one extra day to get it?
Yeah.
It was like, it was a huge deal, and it did live up to those expectations, at the time.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, it was a lot of fun, and there are some stuff in there that I still really love, like
Yeah.
the gag
Mysterio.
of Mysterio
Yeah.
having like 10 health bars and you take them down in one punch. That is
Hmm.
still genius. And it's almost such a good move that I was like, I feel like you stole a joke that Sam Raimi was gonna do in the
Yeah.
movies. Like that's where like the Bruce Campbell Mysterio would have gone, maybe.
Hmm.
Uh,
Yeah,
and
I
I
like that.
love Jake Gyllenhaal Mysterio, but I think like that would have also
Hmm.
been a great send up of the character.
Yeah, like not serious Mysterio
Mhm.
because
Yeah.
he's like, yeah, he's kind of, he has a fishbowl as a head, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that game too. It's just like, they had the voice cast. Like you really felt like immersed at the time. I'm sure like, there's stuff that has not looked well. But yeah, no,
Mhm.
that game really like was the blueprint for like all the rest of the games going forward, more or less.
Mhm.
Because then you get like Ultimate Spider-Man, which I was watching some like playthroughs of that recently, and I'm like, God damn, this is like actually like story wise, like that was like really interesting. It was like this is in
Mhm.
at the time they were like selling it, even though it wasn't. It's in continuity for the
Yeah,
comics. You could play as
yeah.
Venom. Hmm.
I've had people try to explain. I've asked people, can you explain the connection between the Ultimate Spider-Man comics and the Ultimate Spider-Man game? And then I've gotten various different answers, and every single time I've walked away like understanding less.
Yeah.
Um, but those games were excellent. I think they hold up. Like Spider-Man 2, the movie game was like a huge
Hmm.
deal, but I think almost Spider-Man was like just a better all-round game.
Yeah.
Even though maybe the web slinging was like not as good, maybe, but like the art style and the story
Hmm.
and like their use of the characters, it was just like it was a really good, solid game that I was like really invested in. Had some
Yeah.
great music as
It
well.
did. I like the soundtrack. Yeah.
Hmm.
It was
Yeah,
like it was cool. And like the voice cast is like probably how I thought how the characters talked in the comics too.
yeah. I
Yeah.
like they did like a sort of cell shading as well,
Hmm.
which I think is a really good way to do a a
Comics. Yeah.
comic book game.
Hmm. Yeah.
Looks really
Same.
cool.
Yeah. Henry, did you play that Ultimate Spider-Man?
I didn't actually. Like in
Oh.
terms of the Spider-Man games, I
Hmm.
basically played like the very first PS1 game,
Hmm.
that game's sequel, and then the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man games, and then like I've heard of these like the Ultimate Spider-Man. There's also like I
Hmm.
want to say Web of Shadows.
Oh yeah. I guess that'll
Yeah.
go into bad Spider-Man games because I think that
Uh,
one's
was that
kind
one
of
bad?
Yeah,
I think it's kind of bad. Like, I think it's
yeah.
like it was interesting at the time, but I think of like all the bugs and like glitches I had playing that game. And then,
Hmm.
yeah, I think it's also kind of like it goes off the current, I think Spider-Man stuff that's going on in the comic now. It's like, what if he was evil? You know?
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. It's like, what if Spider-Man was bad? Yeah.
I think there's a for me, Web of Shadows came out around the time where maybe there'd been a series of disappointing Spider-Man games where
Hmm.
nothing had lived up to
Spider-Man.
the Spider-Man 2 game,
Yeah.
and I wish they had more distinct titles. There are so many Spider-Man 2 video games.
Yeah. Well, there's Enter
That,
Electro,
yeah,
Oh
well,
yeah.
there are at least three
Spider-Man 2.
Spider-Man 2s
Yeah. Yeah.
on the Game Boy
Yeah.
alone. Like,
Yeah.
yeah. But anyway, um,
Web of Shadows.
I remember Web of Shadows coming out and it being sort of like the idea was like, no, that we're getting back to it being good. We put a lot of time into this one, and
Yeah.
I remember just being really skeptical and then seeing some dodgy reviews, but also, like I said, never been a symbiote guy,
Hmm.
and it was all over that game. It was like, what if Black Cat was symbiote as
Hmm.
well? And I was just like, I don't care. I don't want to play a Spider-Man game where I'm punching like blobs
Well,
for most
yeah,
of it.
that's the whole game.
So yeah,
Yeah.
so what I did is my experience with that game is watching the like cutscenes on YouTube.
Yeah. It's
So
like,
I can't be trusted in saying it's a bad game, but I also believe you when you say it's a bad game.
yeah. It's also like Mass Effect. It had like 3 or 4 alternate endings.
Oh,
Mm,
that's cool.
Yeah. It's like interesting. So it's like there's good, bad, morally gray, and then just like downright evil. Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was all the rage at the time.
Oh yeah. Evil
Yeah.
choices. Yeah. But yeah, for any other bad ones, the thing that like sticks out to me, Spider-Man 3, the game, the movie game, which was like so like you guys seen like all the gifs and stuff where it's like that one where it's like he messes up the quick time event, he just like falls and
Yeah, I love
dies,
Yeah,
that. That's so great.
so
or the
good.
bomb explodes and that chick's face is like not properly animated. There was like
Hmm.
so much of that in that game. I don't know what happened to the I think it was done by like Treyarch Activision. I'm not sure if they were what was going on
I,
after they did
I
Spider-Man 2. And
I
then
think there was also that it was that era of like doing movie tying games all the time, and you have like a really short turnaround to make them
yeah.
work.
Hmm.
And I actually played Spider-Man 3 probably in the worst way is that I played it on the Wii,
Oh,
Okay.
oh,
which
you played as the
was
Wii?
already
Mm,
it was already it was already a thing where they got the cross-platform stuff, but it wasn't the same as the other consoles. So a lot of the time they would spend even like whatever the things that got rushed for the version on like the PS3 or whatever, or the I don't even know what the 360 like would be even more rushed for the Wii.
mhm.
Um, at the time, I was a defender of the motion controls.
Oh, in
Um,
general, yeah.
Oh, you can
yeah,
so
and in that game because it was a
No,
thing where like you
no,
had the Wiimote and the nunchuck, and you would like
yeah,
gesture your hands to swing each of his arms,
yeah.
and it worked better than it sounds. But
Okay.
my issue with it was that I was kind of grinding through it. Like this is fine. This is just like a time sink, and
Hmm.
then my the game froze, and I lost about like 6 hours of progress. And I was like, I and then I ejected that game, and I never played it again. I think I like went right to the store and returned it because
Like,
yeah.
yeah, this game is broken, sir.
Yeah, exactly. And in retrospect, I think the good times were also not good with that
Yeah,
game.
yeah,
Um, it had
yeah.
Craven the Hunter in it, funnily enough, if I
Yeah,
remember right.
Craven's in it. They have like exclusive villains sometimes for consoles. I remember like Morbius is in it for
Oh,
Spider-Man 3.
amazing!
I
Yeah.
think the Lizard's in it, and then like fuck, Kingpin's in one version of the game.
hmm
Mm.
Yeah,
Oh God.
it's weird. Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, when like they decide to give like exclusive stuff to certain consoles. Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, or like it's like stuff where it's like I'm not sure if you guys remember the N gauge.
Oh
Oh
God!
shit.
You know what? I did not remember it until you just said it right now.
Yeah, if anyone doesn't know, the N gauge was a phone that was also a gaming console. It didn't work as
Mhm.
either.
Yeah. It was kind of like
That's a
a Game
great
Boy console
tagline for it.
Yeah, yeah, it kind of works for both, but not really. But yeah, I remember one of the Marvel games was like Ultimate Alliance. It's like there was an exclusive character,
Mm.
or X-Men Legends exclusive character on the N gauge, where it was like Nate. No, it was like Cable, or like Deadpool, and it's like who wants to play the N gauge for that?
yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, what a time that was like that was a
Glorious time.
thing. Yeah, 20
Yeah.
years ago, someone thought that was a great idea. And
I
there
mean,
was
like
like,
the generation after us is so blessed with like mobile phones and games because we had a
mhm.
fucking bad time for like half of our
Yeah,
lives.
Yeah,
hmm,
to the point where there's like mobile games now where I still have this sort of thought in my head. If I see a game advertised and I'm like, oh, that looks interesting, I find out it's a mobile game. I'm like, oh, okay, not paying attention to it. But when you actually look at what like mobile games, especially not the freemium, but like just the paid ones or the
hmm,
ones as part of packages and stuff, there's some really good stuff in mobile games now because mobiles can pull off way better stuff. And I'm like,
yeah,
it didn't used to be this way.
yeah.
It's be
We
hot
just,
garbage.
yeah,
Yeah.
we lucky, lucky people.
I'm playing like a Die-Hard game on like my mobile phone. And it was basically like
Hmm.
Snake. Bruce Willis was a snake, basically.
Oh yeah, these like it
Yeah,
was
he
just
like
like
follow
snake.
around like terrorists on a
Hmm.
phone. He like shoot like one little pixel to kill terrorists.
That
Uh-huh.
sounds amazing. What are you talking about?
It was fucking uncontrollable. You could barely see it was Bruce Willis. It's like little like 4 pixels.
Yeah.
And when it makes sounds, it just yeah. That's what I'm playing on my phone.
Yeah. Why it
Mm.
was a wild time, yeah.
Wild time.
Yeah, I remember just playing like Prince of Persia or something. But it
Oh
was
yeah,
like
Prince of Persia.
yeah, that one was
Mm.
fun. So yeah, going off of that, I guess we'll talk about our impressions of the first Insomniac game. Came out 5 years ago now. Time flies. Um, and yeah, it came out around this time 5 years ago. Just going up to it, my first impressions of the game, I was a little like skeptical. I wouldn't say like, oh, I'm not gonna buy it, but it was like after years of kind of like mediocre or disappointing games with Spider-Man. Because I wouldn't include these in like bad games because I've never played them, but they just weren't that good. Where you had like I think it was like Spider-Man Edge of Time, There was like the multiverse, these like multiverse games. There was like the one with like Spider-Man 2099. I guess they kind of predicted those movies, or like Amazing Spider-Man, the game, like stuff like that.
Mhm.
And they were just really like
Yeah.
not like bad, but just like they just looked not good. So like the fact when it's like, all right, we got the Insomniac Studios to make the good one, I'm like, all right, well, we'll play it. And then I played it, and then just like that consumed the whole weekend that
Yeah.
week. Yeah, because it was just like it was amazing. I love that first game. Um, it's just I think for me it's like just like the storytelling of it, the way that they do interesting things with the character. They have like interesting twists, like how they do Doctor Octopus, like he's suffering from like a neurological disease that like that's why he has the arms, or Peter works at his lab, or like he used to work with like Norman, or I guess like Norman's mayor of New York. It kind of looks like Donald Trump for some reason, you know. Yeah, they just do like interesting stuff. What was your guys' like impression of it? What's going on, man?
Uh, yeah, so I had a similar thing because I'd been playing like most of the Spider-Man releases
Hmm.
that I could get my hands on since I was a kid, and
Yeah.
then I think it was probably around Spider-Man 3 that I stopped buying them.
Hmm.
So I missed Web of Shadows. I missed uh the multiverse ones. I missed the Amazing Spider-Man games. I was like, I'm gonna come back when everyone tells me it's safe to come back.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was like, there's always like one person who's like, this one's actually kind of good, and it's like, okay, yeah, I need everyone to tell me it's good.
Yeah.
um but it was a combination of I when I saw the gameplay, I was like, okay, well, it looks like they've got a really good gameplay system when they started presenting
Yes.
that. But my thought was like, okay, but I need to see reviews still, or I need to have confirmation that it actually works. Um, Maybe it's too ambitious and it's not like it's going to be glitchy when you actually play it. Uh, but then when I found out it was like Insomniac that were doing it as well, I've
Hmm.
actually like played most Insomniac games.
Hmm. Ratchet and
They're
Clank.
like, yeah, I love the Ratchet and Clank games.
Hmm.
I think it's still wild to me. They made Marvel's Spider-Man and then went and made Ratchet and Clank a Rift Apart,
Yeah.
which is still one of the best PS5 games.
Hmm.
It's
Okay.
just an incredible game. Probably my favorite Ratchet and Clank game.
Yeah.
And then
I
they
fell
like
off.
come back to Spider-Man.
Yeah, I fell off for Ratchet and Clank, so I'd love to
When did
check
you
that.
fall off? Do you remember?
It was probably like PlayStation 3, so it's like Up Your Arsenal. Then there was like
Hmm.
Deadlocked, like around there.
Right. Well, they the PS3 ones are really good, and I think I fell off actually around PS4.
Hmm.
There's a couple they put out there that I didn't play, and then I came back for Rift Apart, and Rift Apart was excellent.
Yeah.
I recommend anyone who actually has access to a
Oh yeah.
PS5, uh,
Yeah.
if they're actually being sold.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh. Wasn't there a Ratchet and Clank movie? That was cool.
yeah. With
Forgot about
I'm pretty sure Stallone was in it.
Stallone was like Captain Cork, and then there was like
Yeah, which is insane.
yeah, it's
That was like for every Mario movie or something, there's a Ratchet and Clank that everyone
Ratchet.
just forgets about.
Yeah.
Berries in the desert, with alongside the engages.
The
Yeah.
engagements.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yes,
um,
Insomniac
but
puts out some great
yeah,
games.
and Insomniac they also put out the Resistance games,
Oh, okay.
which
Oh, yeah,
are
board games.
great. Yeah, they're great shooters. And a great like world building and like sort of alien sci-fi stuff. Yeah, I really like all their games, and I didn't really see why they were being chosen to make the Spider-Man games,
Yeah.
especially since because they're owned by Sony,
Right.
but Sucker Punch are also a developer owned by Sony, and Sucker Punch had made the Infamous games,
Mm.
which for anyone who doesn't know are open world superhero games that were fairly well received. And I just thought, oh, if anyone's going to be given it, it will be them. But then it goes to the people who made like shooter games and Ratchet and Clank. But then they made something like really amazing, and I did a similar thing with as you did, which is I got it when it first came out, and I just it became I was doing like my 9 to 5, or well, a millennial living in London, so like
Hmm.
9 to 6.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
and it was just literally like going to work, thinking about Spider Man all day, going home,
Uh-huh.
playing Spider Man until it's so late I have to go to bed, otherwise I'm going to be too tired for work tomorrow. Rinse and repeat.
Hmm.
And I think I just completed the game in like 5 days or
Yeah.
something, and then platinum trophied it like within the month.
Hmm.
um it was one of the most like intense like adult like gaming experiences I've had, because I'd have that more as a teenager, where
Hmm.
you get really obsessed with a game.
Yeah.
um but as an adult, it's harder to find the time for that,
It
so
is.
it
Yeah.
requires a really good game for you to set aside that time, and that
Yeah.
was this game for me.
Yeah. I was gonna ask because it's like, yeah, because I still game, you guys still, game, but like playing as like
Mhm.
an adult is interesting because it's like I liked when I would just like play games all day as a kid, but like when I try to do that now, like you feel like not sure about you guys, do you feel like a sense of guilt where you're like, oh man, like if you play it like all day, it's like I should go outside or like do something like productive, or it's like pay this
Yeah.
bill or something. Yeah.
Well, exactly. Yeah, you're not making money while you're playing games. You're not a functional member of. You're not a functional cog in capitalism. So
Yeah.
you're a failure as a person if you're
Hmm.
playing a game.
Uh
Uh, I think
Basically,
a lot of the guilt comes from that. But
yeah.
I mean, yeah, I mean, I've gone in and out of gaming. So I think like maybe since the pandemic, I've gotten more into gaming again.
Hmm.
But it did help when the Switch came out, because I think while Nintendo games were like very much for uh you know aiming for kids a lot of the time, like having a game that was like a TV console thing that also was portable, and you could like play for 5 minutes on a train and then put it to sleep and shove it in your bag, like made so much sense to me as a
Yeah.
working adult, you
Hmm.
know.
Yeah. Switch is great.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Henry, what was your impressions of the game just when it came out and everything?
I mean, like as we both know now, I was a bit of a Microsoft bitch, so like
Yeah.
I didn't really get to play this game until the pandemic,
Okay.
Hmm.
right? And obviously, by this point, I've kind of like secondhand experienced Jack's like manic 5 days of playing the game.
Just see, yeah.
He,
Just
yeah,
yeah.
I watch him come into work and just be like, I mean, like completely not there, and just be like, oh
Mm.
yeah, he's Spider Man, and yeah, this kind of like, if you get me wrong, kind of hot on the heels of like the Smash Brothers Ultimate and the Breath of the Wild. So
Mm.
by this point, I'm kind of like, yeah, I've got the vibe. And by the time it comes around in like 2020, I get to play the game for the first time. I miraculously have managed to avoid all kinds of spoilers, so I get to go in this cold. And I mean, as far as first impressions of the game go, I think every Spider-Man game, and guys, I'd be interested to see if you guys agree, but I think every Spider-Man game lives and dies on that first swing, right?
Yeah. Mm.
You get that swing right, you get the feel right, you're like, this is a
Hmm.
Spider-Man. And
Mm.
yeah, the first time I put that controller in my hand, I was like, oh, I'm fucking swinging around and shit. I was like, yeah, this is the game.
You know
Yeah.
what? They
And
they know it as well with this one, because the
yeah,
first time you control anything is at the peak of a swing, and then they're
yeah,
just like it slows down a bit, and they're like, "Press the swing button." Do
Yeah.
you guys like it? We think you like it.
There's like, it's
basically,
like in the
yeah,
middle of a cutscene too, and you're like, now you're in
Mhm.
the
yeah.
game. Yeah. What a great
Yeah,
opening cutscene too, by the way.
Excellent opening cutscene. Yeah, and I think
yeah,
like the first part of that game is like in many ways it's perfect. It's like the beginning of like a great novel.
Hmm.
And I think like I mean like everything else is awesome. I love the open world nature of it. I love how much detail they will put into like New York and
Hmm.
how you feel like you're Spider-Man in it. But I think yeah, like the best part of the game for me is the story. And I think maybe since probably Spider-Man 3, I think we've really struggled for a good Spider-Man story.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think like I don't know, it's kind of amazing that no one else has been able to get anywhere close to this before or since, in a way, you
Yeah.
know. And
Yeah,
I
it
think
was
that
it's interesting because I do think it was in a similar place that the movies have been in that
Mm,
you're dealing even though there haven't been like really well received serious narrative driven Spider-Man games
hmm.
that weren't also like based on a movie or something at that point.
Yeah.
They were in a position where like they couldn't just do the Spider-Man from the Raimi movies.
Hmm.
That they were kind of in a similar position that the Amazing Spider-Man movie was of like, okay, we got to like do this in a fresh way, and it almost feels like all the great ideas that writers had for the Amazing Spider-Man that were then shooed out of the room or like rewritten to death. All
Yeah.
those good ideas that actually stayed in were in this game,
Hmm. That's
and
a good
it's
way to
not
put it.
like it's not perfect or anything, but like it does do what an adaptation should do in that like it takes elements from the original material without like being completely beholden to them.
Hmm. Yeah, no, that's a good point because yeah, look at like the villains, I mean, went off a little bit on that, but like I don't know, it's like Mr. Negative is in it, but it's like,
Hmm.
they really do like because he's okay in the comics, that character, but like they
Mhm.
really do like interesting stuff with like Mr. Negative or like like Norman Osborn or like like Scorpion, yeah, Sinister
Yeah,
Six, yeah.
Yeah,
and
I
yeah,
think the strongest thing was I I think they did a good job with villains across the board, but the main thing was that they absolutely nailed Doc Ock. He's
Don't
so good in that game. Like he's they it's kind of a mix. I mean, I guess if anything, it's closest to the Alfred Molina Doctor Octopus in that
hmm.
he's a mentor and a friend
Hmm.
before
He's
he
like,
goes off the deep end.
yeah,
But I think they
sympathetic.
they yeah, but I mean, as much as I love Alfred Molina, I think this is uh like a more satisfying arc.
Yeah, his
And
voice
because
stuff.
it really is sad, and also there is this like amazing ambiguity where there's things you learn where it's like it's not that like because there's
the art.
the idea of like his degenerative disease forces him to do certain things.
Hmm.
There's pressures of like losing funding and things like that.
Yeah.
And then there's the idea of like his the technology affecting his brain and driving him off the deep end. But then there's also like an element of like it's not black and white. Some of his plans were made before he went off the deep end.
Yeah.
So there is kind of like, how well did you actually know this guy?
Hmm.
What was he? Maybe he wouldn't have gone through with it at a certain point, but it's a really interesting, like nuanced way to do the character. And
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it for that. And I think the same with Norman Osborn, who is not like suiting up and fighting or anything, but
Hmm.
do a different version of him where he's a definite scumbag and
Right.
like uh you know as like a CEO and as a mayor he's dodgy
Hmm.
but he doesn't he's also got like a humanity to him as well. So he
Yeah.
like makes sense what he's doing, and you understand that like he thinks he's a good person,
Hmm.
but I also think like pairing those two characters is very interesting, like Otto and Norman,
Hmm.
both as arch nemesis of Spider-Man, but like also like uh, as
Consider each
scientists
other.
who yeah, there's just a rogue recommend. Uh there's a I think a Superior
Oh, it's
Spider-Man
team
team
up.
up
Yeah. Team up. Yeah.
where they do one issue and it's all about like this untold story of uh the Green Goblin and Dr. Octopus. And it's so interesting because you get to see them connect with each
Mhm.
other, as you might expect villains could do, but then
Yeah.
also see like almost like the wildest story in that kind of like this game actually. You're like, that like, Doc Ock is a definite villain, a definite like not a good person really.
Mhm.
But then Norman Osborn, boy, he is not a nice man.
Yeah, they're both terrible. Yeah,
Yeah,
but yeah.
and so I really love that dynamic and having them be sort of partners where Otto has gone, maybe the more genuine scientific route, uh, and not being fortunate, whereas
Yeah.
Norman has gone the scumbag route and been rewarded for it, and then
Mhm.
seeing that level of frustration. It's just a really good dynamic, and it also is a very good like theme, for Spider-Man stuff. I love that, when the villains reflect a theme in some way, where it's
Yeah.
like this idea of like, what does the world owe you, and
Mhm.
you know especially like if you're a good person and then bad things happen to you, how do you react to that?
Yeah.
And then you see that play out in this game with like what happens to Peter as well. It's just really solid writing, which I really didn't expect from this game, because it was enough that the web slinging was good.
Yeah.
you know
Yeah. Everything was good. Going off of that, what you guys think of like Peter in the game? Because it's like him as like how they do that character is like really like it covers like the sort of like 20 something life so well, because it's like that opening scene. He's like his rent is like overdue. He's like he loses his house, like he doesn't have a job like half the game or a house. I thought that was like really interesting where it's like, hey, he felt really relatable, you know?
Yeah, like I think every Spider-Man game going forward, every Spider-Man like franchise item going forward, should have a period of the game slash movie slash TV show where Spider-Man is homeless.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a really great idea. Or you
Yeah.
can try to scramble on trying to find like the stuff that's been thrown out because he can't pay his rent.
Hmm.
It's like a
Always should,
in a
yeah.
way,
Genius.
yeah, it's completely genius. As one small gripe,
Hmm.
like my only thing that I don't like about Peter, and particularly in the PS5 games,
Yeah.
is that we
Oh
changed his character design for no reason.
Oh yeah, not my Peter.
Like,
Yeah,
what my Peter?
yeah, and then that's
oh
also interesting
boy.
because it's like in the new game they changed it again
Oh
too.
god, it looks like shit.
Yeah, because
I
I
It
like
had the
Yeah.
actor's like face, right? They just used the guy's face, and
yeah,
they were like, "No, that guy's face is wrong."
yeah.
You
Poor
know?
guy. Imagine that
Yeah,
like actor, dude. He's
and he
just
did great.
like it's like they're
Also,
like
Like,
you. Mhm.
I played the remastered one recently,
Yeah,
because I played it on a PS4 and I never touched the remastered one until
same.
this year.
Yeah,
Um, and for anyone who hasn't played the remastered version, like as far as I can tell, everything looks exactly the same to me, apart from his face.
his face. Yeah,
And
they're just
it's really weird to have like
yeah.
a whole different version of the game where it doesn't feel like they've upgraded much, but they've changed that. Also, this is like actually like I think there's so much to like about this game, that it really is like a great experience. But
Hmm.
I the biggest gripe I have with it is related to that, in that actually soft plug for our
Oh,
Discord.
okay. There you
But
go.
someone in our Discord referred to like the designs in these games, like the character design, and where just generally people look, as having no source. And
Oh yeah,
that's,
sauceless. Yeah.
yeah, completely sourceless. And it's like that is really sums it up for me, because everything looks great, but because I think people get into fights about this on like Twitter and things like that,
Yeah,
about like,
right.
hey, it doesn't look bad. You guys think it looks terrible, but it doesn't look terrible. It doesn't
Mhm.
look terrible at all. It looks fine. But
looks
like, there's
nothing.
nothing going on in the actual design, because everyone has to look like a real person,
Right.
which to even to the point where the original design, they were like, you know what, like this guy's eyebrows are too thick. He needs to have a more average human male eyebrow,
Hmm.
and that redesign was just really symptomatic of the whole game's like just like, what if we made Peter Parker look like a regular guy, but like so regular that it's like, yeah, that's a guy I work with, that's a guy in the
Hmm.
office, that's a guy I pass on the street, but that's not like really like good character design,
Yeah. Also
and
to that, I say, it's a video
it
game, you know?
yeah, yeah, exactly, and you can see it really clearly when you switch the suits, especially in the Miles Morales game when you can
Mm,
play as Into the Spider Verse Miles, and you
hmm.
get like the frame rate change for his
Yes.
movement, and you get the cell shading and everything, and then it looks amazing, and you're like, imagine if the whole game looked like this,
Yeah.
you know? Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
why does it need to look realistic? Like you said, it's a video game. You're playing
Hmm.
as Spider Man.
Yeah.
It doesn't need to look exactly real in all senses of that. And I think it's really weird that the designs went that way, even to level where like I like the villains in the game. Um no notes on like Dr. Octopus or anything, but
Hmm.
like everything tends to be like everything has to be armor.
Yeah.
Everything is
Armor, tech.
mechanized. My
Yeah.
breaking point for that personally was in the Miles Morales one when Prowler and it's just like he has the mask and the mask is cool, but it's like he looks like just an armored like guard that you'd fight in the
Yeah.
game.
Hmm.
Mm.
And I'm thinking back to the comics as well, where he's got like a long flowing cape and it's a really cool
Hmm.
design. uh and you can draw on those comics for like some really dynamic imagery, and going the no, everything needs to look exactly realistic and everything
Yeah.
has to be have no distinctive like flavor to it at all. It's such a
Hmm.
weird direction to go.
Yeah.
And it is, I mean, it is the major disappointment about the game for me, and I think that is reflected in everything we've seen of the new game as well.
Yeah.
Um,
Hmm.
but like everything else they do is so good. There's like it's really that 1% that you know, it's not perfect.
Yeah. It's, I guess, I think in the second game, and I guess we'll get to that, but it's like, I guess they're kind of course correcting that because it's like, there's non-tech villains like Lizard, or in the new trailer, Sandman is in it. So
Mm.
yeah, it'd
Oh,
be cool.
really?
Yeah, they just put it out today. So yeah, I guess hopefully, yeah, they course correct that a little bit. But yeah, I guess it's kind of last two things here before we move on to like predictions. But I guess I don't know, like my friend told me this is like a point of contention, but Detective Mary Jane, did everyone like that? She's
I
like
like the
invest.
idea.
Okay.
I
People
think
don't.
like the thing that one thing the game does really well is like at some point it forces you to slow down.
Oh, to like play as the character.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because sometimes it's like, hey, like the story's not happening right now. Go do something else, which I think is
Hmm.
really cool. But
Yeah.
also in a way of breaking up the monotony, not necessarily monotony, but like the sameness of what goes before. Is a bit of a Mary Jane section. But
Hmm.
like I think I have a special like I think stealth levels in general have a special place in hell. And I think like
Hmm.
the fun of being Spider-Man is not the stealth part, you know? And I think Detective
Yeah.
Mary Jane, we do like, I don't know, like a little like Phoenix Wright or like an LA Noir thing
Yeah.
for like an hour or so. Like, that would be fucking great. If she's like, I don't
Hmm.
know,
Yeah.
getting like journalistic sources in a way that's not like sneak past this armored guard in a way that like a human
Don't
woman would
don't
never
knock
do.
over this pile of cardboard boxes.
Yeah, it's like Metal Gear
Yeah.
Solid, but with like some like wasp at the front of the game, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like,
Yes.
oh, that the idea is fine, but I think the execution can be better. And
Hmm.
similarly, like they have a similar thing with like Miles Morales, where he does basically the
Oh,
same thing.
stealth.
And it's like, we don't need
Yeah.
two of these.
Yeah, they were really
Right, yeah.
they had a lot of stealth missions. Do you guys like
Yeah.
your, I guess, just as a journalist too? Was that cool?
Yeah, I think
It's
I have some issues with that. I think it makes sense for the game, but
Hmm.
I'd say I wouldn't be surprised if at some point in the writing of the game she was Betty Brant,
Ah, okay.
and who in the comics she started off as like a secretary at the Bugle, but she became a reporter and then stayed as a reporter for most of
Right.
Spider-Man comics. And there is a romantic connection with Peter and Betty initially, and then they became
Hmm.
friends.
No, they're
I
just friends. Yeah.
so yeah, so like now a lot of it I'm like, well, why isn't it just Betty? Because Mary
Hmm.
Jane is a model and an actress, and
Right.
the only real reason to change that to me is it does feel like there's an underlying thing of like, but those aren't like serious careers, you know, or
Yeah.
there's no reason to include a character unless they have a functional like plot reason to be there, like being a
Right.
detective. And so I do think it's frustrating because it feels like almost like a um we can't have like Mary Jane be a model or
Hmm.
something because that would be like insulting to her character, and it's like that's not an insulting
Yeah.
job to have, you know. So I think like it does bother me a bit that they went that direction with her. But saying that, her general usage in the plot, I do
Hmm.
those stealth missions are probably the worst gameplay segments,
Oh yeah.
but
Yeah.
the actual like her relationship with Peter and in the cutscenes, the way they interact, I like all that
Mm.
stuff. I like the characterization.
Okay.
I just think it's just a kind of a weird thing to make her that character.
Yeah.
Mm.
And also it's like
Mhm.
yeah, it just she becomes like a Lois Lane.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. It's kind of a ripoff. Yeah.
yeah, and it's just a weird thing to choose that
Yeah.
character to do that with.
Yeah. Give her a new profession.
I
She'll
mean,
find it.
like,
Hmm.
I don't know about you guys, but like, I'd probably play like a side mission where I just have to be like a model for like 20 minutes. Where I have
Just
to
like
like
posing.
use like the left stick to walk down a catwalk and press the right buttons at the right time to like strike poses.
Quick time.
I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, it was a quick time like modeling event.
Yeah,
I'd play the
or
side.
like a she has to join
Cowards.
the picket line as an actress.
Yeah.
She has to
Oh,
negotiate for equal rights with like
yeah.
the
just
studios.
to,
Like, press the
just
wrong
to
button, like AI
just to
takes over.
argue so that they don't use her likeness with
Yeah.
AI.
Yeah. Oh
It's like an LA
no.
Noir thing where you have a prompt, you use the wrong prompt, then like we lose all of our creative like forces to AI forever.
Hmm. Jesus.
It's restart the game.
Never stop.
Yeah.
Oh man. Well, maybe they'll have that in the new game.
Yeah, I hope so.
Uh, I guess going off of that, before we talk predictions, I was just gonna say it's very story wise, great story, but yeah, the swings it took, it killed off Aunt May. I'm like, man, that took a lot of guts to do
Mm.
that. Thinking about
Yeah, for
that,
sure.
yeah.
I don't
But
want
yeah,
to go on
just
too much of a I don't want to go on too much of a tangent with
Hmm.
this, but I just want to point out that it's wild that like in retrospect, No Way Home
Yeah.
just did this exact plot, even to
Hmm.
the point of shoehorning in like the feast center and
Yep.
everything,
Yep.
right? Which is
yeah,
a comic thing,
yeah.
you know, anyway, but like
Hmm.
they did very much like go, yeah, people really like that, right? We should do that and we should get it all done in like, you know, one third of the movie really quickly.
Hmm.
I think the
Yeah, it's a question.
difference is that it works really well here
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
there's uh they make it clear that Aunt May is this like she gets some good characterization as part of his personal life. You get those small side missions with her.
Hmm.
Um and there's
Yeah.
also the idea of like, you know, I think there was something behind the scenes where one of the writers said like whenever Spider-Man wins, Peter Parker loses.
Hmm.
And that was kind of a mentality they took with Aunt May dying. And I think that is interesting, but also it wasn't like so melodramatic because a bad thing happened to the whole city and she was one casualty of that.
Hmm.
So it wasn't like the universe shitting on Peter Parker like
Hmm.
exclusively, but it was really sad and tragic in the sense that he had to make a decision and, you know, sacrifice something uh like lose something himself, you know.
Yeah.
Um
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Better, yeah, certainly better than the MCU. Yeah, for
Yeah,
reasons.
with Homecoming, it's Aunt May at Feast at that point. Because that's on
Yeah,
before the game.
yeah.
What in I thought they introduced that I know they mentioned that she was like working in charity or something in Far From Home maybe,
For
Let's go back
second
from
one,
home. Yeah.
second one, yeah.
but
But
I
not on the
don't
Also,
first.
know if they named the center then.
no, yeah. Also, you didn't really get to know her in those movies at all.
No,
At all.
there was no resolution for anything that
Yeah,
she was
at
in.
all.
At the
Uh,
risk of taking us another tangent, do you think
mm,
that Aunt May's new Uncle Ben, in that we have to sacrifice her in order to move the plot forward?
for the game or for the
In
movie?
general, really.
Oh, like they make her Uncle Ben?
Yeah.
I guess I would say more for the movie because it's like I don't even know if Uncle Ben exists in the MCU.
Yeah.
Besides,
Like the
like,
whole point. Yeah.
yeah,
Sorry.
I think well they I think that was the intention with the movie. At
yeah,
least I don't know if it like worked in the way they wanted it to.
no,
But in
yeah,
this game, that's the thing with this. It doesn't feel like that. It doesn't feel like it's just a motivation thing, as much as it
Yeah.
feels like as dramatic as it is. The way they handled it was reminiscent of like actually going through grief and losing people as
yeah,
you get older in life, and
hmm
that there is that sense of when she dies. There's also like it's not the end, it's just
right,
like we kind of move on and we take those lessons.
hmm
So I think they handled it like quite maturely.
yeah, very well said.
And I guess
Yeah,
like the final fight of the game is basically based on trying to save Aunt May's life. And it kind of
hmm
comes back into the plot in a way that like makes sense,
hmm
but also like forces him to make a choice, like you say, in making the outcome of the final like part of the game make sense, really. So
yeah,
yeah, I think it works really well in that situation, but I don't think it's a world we can go back to super often, I don't think. But yeah, that's
yeah,
my two
yeah.
cents.
That's yeah, very well put. But yeah, I guess wrapping up here, predictions for Spider-Man 2 the game. I guess the first thing, because it's like I think we talked about this. Who is Venom? Because I don't think that they have Eddie Brock in this game. I don't know. I don't think they've ever mentioned it. Because it's like,
I tell you what, there's one reference to Eddie Brock in the first game,
mm,
as in like there's one reference somewhere where it says something like a Daily Bugle journalist called Eddie
uh,
Brock said that
oh,
was it.
oh,
My
okay,
personal thing is that I'm not 100% sure on who Venom will be. Actually, usually when I make predictions on this, I'm like extremely wrong.
okay,
So I don't know, but like one thing I'm sure of though is it is not Eddie Brock.
yeah. You don't think it's gonna
Um,
be here? Wait,
Yeah.
Eddie.
I think
Oh, let's try to do that. How do you guys do it? It's like
You in the
Eddie.
game, Eddie.
Yeah.
I'm a
Sorry.
playable character, Eddie.
So that's Tom Hardy's voice in those movies. If no one knows,
Yeah.
yeah,
yeah, co-writer of Let There Be
Yeah.
Carnage,
let
Tom
there be
Hardy.
Tom Hardy. He loves that character, I guess.
God knows
Uh,
why.
yeah, but sorry,
Yeah,
what were you saying?
I think my take is that I think what they're gonna do from I haven't seen like the most recent trailer
Mhm.
or actually the one before it maybe
Yeah.
either. But my take from what I have seen is that they're gonna make it seem like it's gonna be Harry,
hmm
and then it's gonna be Craven.
Mm. That's how I feel
Be-
too. Like it's like a
because
fake
I
out.
because I also think Craven being like the main antagonist of the game. I love Craven, but and I think
Year of Craven, the year of Craven, huh?
yeah, it's the year of Craven.
No, Henry's
Hashtag the year of Craven.
shaking his head.
Here's to
But
They
I
moved
think
it.
like
Next year will be the year of Craven.
no, it's still the year of Craven 2023. Next year will be the year of El Muerto.
No, it got canceled.
No, yeah, but it's still the year of El
Oh,
Muerto,
okay.
in which Craven will come out then, because
Yeah.
that's what it deserves.
Mm.
But I think
Dead and alive.
I think there'll be a thing of Craven realizing he can become the ultimate hunter by
Mhm.
using the symbiote.
Yeah.
And that will also mean that fighting Craven can actually be a final boss because, like, uh, Craven is a great, antagonist in the comics and in elsewhere, but like, just practically, like Miles and Peter fighting Craven,
Hmm.
like that's like almost that's a
Overkill.
crime, like that you need to pull those guys back, that's like unfair.
It's overkill.
But
Yeah.
yeah, but like if you add a symbiote to the mix, it
Yeah.
kind of makes sense, especially since this they are kind of doing that thing of like remixing characters a
Hmm.
little bit.
Yeah.
So I think it'll make sense if they do it that way.
Hmm.
I personally I would like Eddie Brock because I don't think we've had a good Eddie Brock adaptation in a like very long time.
Yeah.
Um
Probably since
but
like 1984.
but yeah, the yeah, so I don't I just really don't think they'll have room for him in this game.
Yeah.
Or if they are, then it's really weird that they're like hiding that he's in it at all,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. What if it's
Because
like
we all know it's
Arkham?
coming. Yeah.
What's up?
We all know Venom's coming, but it's just like
Hmm.
on what form, I guess.
Yeah.
In the interest of being as wrong as possible, I
Hmm.
think that Venom will be either J. Jonah Jameson or Mary Jane.
Okay.
Because yeah, like
Uh-huh.
I also think that like could you consider like the pattern of like the last Spider-Man game and I guess like the last like Miles Morales game, like someone very important to both of those
Yeah.
characters has died.
Yeah.
In the case of Miles Morales, like
Yeah.
he had like one like casualty in each game, even though he wasn't in the first one. His
Yeah.
dad dies, and then obviously his friend dies in the second one.
Hmm.
And you think to yourself, well, someone's got to die in order for the change to happen.
Mm. I do think like it would be so boring if they had another villain that was like a tragic friend who's gone to the dark side. So making
Hmm.
it Harry, I think would be a boring choice
Yeah.
personally.
Yeah.
Mm.
But
Yeah. Same.
I can see the thing that like the tragic if you're going with the rule of when Spider-Man wins, Peter loses. Uh, I could see this game ending with like his relationship to Harry being over,
Hmm.
you
Yeah.
know, and maybe
Mm.
that's where that relationship goes, rather than like Harry actually becoming Venom or something.
Yeah. Yeah. That would
Even
be
more,
cool.
and that's
Yeah,
what
he
he
Yeah.
could
does.
be. He's had the Carnage symbiote in the comics. So he had a symbiote before. Precedent. Craven had
Hmm.
the symbiote too in Life
Yeah.
Story. So
Hmm.
there are precedents. Yeah. But yeah, no, like just everything about this seems like I don't know. I trust them enough to I don't think they'll make a boring choice. I don't think it'll be like Arkham Knight or something where it's like, oh no, it's not Jason Todd. And then it totally was Jason Todd.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, so yeah, I don't know. I have a good feeling about it, but yeah, I think we can only speculate at this point. I guess we'll find out in like 3 or 4 days, 4 or 5.
Do you think
Comes
they can
out.
improve on the gameplay at all?
Yeah, I think so because I watched like some stuff where it's like you could glide and like some of
Mm.
the controls, how you use the symbiote or the web slinging. Seems like from some of the gameplay, it seems a little like the mechanics are different, which I thought
I
in
am
like. Mhm.
no, so I was just gonna say like I my only worry actually is that one of the things that slightly bugged me in the first one is that they make the web zip so powerful
Yeah.
that at a certain point, if you want to move it as fast as you can, it actually makes sense to not web sling.
Yeah, just web zip.
Um, yeah, and also it's like there's almost never a reason to crawl on a wall.
Yeah.
Uh, and I think it's kind of weird that the gameplay kind of like makes it like less important that you do that. So when they bring in the gliding, my first thought was like, oh, is this another reason why you don't need to web sling? Which is a really fun part of the game, but it's kind of weird when you're playing a game that has this great aspect to it, and they're like giving you a reason to just skip that, you know?
Hmm.
So
It's a
I'm
fair-
a little skeptical on that, but like, the games have been like really fun to play, so I have like that faith that, you know, it'll work still.
Yeah. Yeah. I think so. Yeah, it took him 5. 3 years. It's a good amount of time.
I know
Yeah.
there were a couple of changes in the Miles Morales game
Yeah.
that like just little combat things that were very satisfying and I really enjoyed and I didn't expect because the the time difference between those two games wasn't a lot.
Yeah.
And little changes they made. So like yeah, like you said, like a much longer gap between these games. Like, you know, I'm excited for the new stuff as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Same. Yeah, we didn't really talk about the Miles Morales game, but that game is excellent too. So we'll
Yeah.
hopefully some changes get stay there. Trying to think any other final points about Spider-Man 2, the game, or just in general, Insomniac Spider-Man.
I think Morbius will win this new game.
Oh yeah, he's so he is apparently in the first game. He's Morgan Michaels. He's not Michael Morbius. He's the
Man. Yeah,
What if
I'm
he
so
turned out to be Venom?
What's that?
What if he turned out to be Venom?
Could be Morbin time.
Yeah. I mean, I'm so sick of Morbius. I was so sick of Morbius so long ago.
Yeah, that's why they changed his name.
Morbius before it was cool.
Yeah, I was sick of Morbius in 1997.
So,
Yeah, no,
Mhm.
I think like a big like my final thought on these games is that they need to have different names
Okay.
because Marvel's Spider-Man and Marvel's Spider-Man 2
Two.
sucks as
Yeah.
names. Not only do they suck as names, but they're also like hard to like remember and say when you're talking about the games.
Mhm.
I guess there's an element of it being like they want to seem like they're definitive, like this is the Spider-Man game, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so I don't know what a better solution would be, but like I'm very sick of saying stuff like Marvel's Spider-Man 2.
Yeah. I just call it Insomniac Spider-Man.
Yeah, that's better, even though like that implies a much more wild game of
Yeah.
like a deranged Spider-Man who is jumping in the dark because he hasn't had any sleep.
Yeah.
Which I'd probably prefer that actually. Like there's I wouldn't mind a little bit more like sort of like relatability to the Peter Parker character who doesn't
Yeah.
always have to be like a purely good person at all
Yeah.
times. Same with Miles actually as well. I do think I love Miles in the movies, love Miles in the comics. Miles in
Mhm.
this game, it to me is extremely boring
Hmm.
because his character is kind of just like he's a nice guy, and
Mhm.
I don't know how else. Like I like his relationships with other characters,
Yeah.
but him himself, I don't have anything to say about. I'm hoping
Yeah.
that we get some more distinctive like character traits or something in this game.
Mhm.
Yeah. He's like that
Yeah.
smooth SpongeBob meme. It's like no edges, no like divots.
Yeah.
Smooth.
Yeah, we need some
Yeah.
edges, some Insomniac edges of them both like being like caffeine addled and unable to sleep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe that's how the symbiote will affect them.
Well, there
Yeah.
is no
Maybe.
symbiote. It's just like he's hallucinating because he hasn't slept in 4 days.
Oh my god. Henry, any final thoughts?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I don't have a PS5 yet, so I'll probably be like playing this in retrospect, but I think it looks really good. I'm like always down for these games. I'm kind of curious
Mhm.
to see where they go with it. And yeah, like I look forward to playing it when it comes out. I will
Yeah.
yeah, I think like in general, like we call it design, but I think it's more like almost anti-design of like
Mm.
making these characters as like bland as possible to go to a wider audience or for whatever reason they're doing it. And I wish,
Yeah.
yeah, like they give like Spider-Man, like Peter Parker, they give him like a little bit of like, yeah, he's got like a bit of a situation with his girlfriend, or I don't know, he really like he's addicted to pizza. I don't know.
Yeah.
Something's making like a person rather than like a an audience cipher for a video game that doesn't need an audience cipher because it's fucking Spider-Man. I don't know. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Uh-huh.
Well, I think also at the end of the day, like even if the plot is terrible in every single way,
Yeah.
like if the gameplay is like it's different from a movie or a show or something, in that like if the gameplay is really good, like it won't matter as much.
Yeah, like Arkham Knight. Like Arkham
Yeah.
Knight. Terrible story.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not thinking about themes when I run over a man in the Batmobile.
Yeah.
But it's fine because he got zapped by the car.
That's
He didn't
out,
get
yeah.
hit by the car.
He didn't get killed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's alive. He won't be able to eat fruit solids for a while, but like he's alive.
Barely,
And I
yeah.
can see Spider-Man. I can punch civilians. That's my honest. But we'll see.
You've like damn. But yeah, anyway, yeah, final thoughts. Yeah, I'm just excited to play it. And I guess I'm excited for the statue that I pre-ordered. I bought the 19 inches of it. Just for shits and giggles.
That's a. I have to check this actually. I haven't checked this. Henry is much less online than you and me. Do you know about 19 inches of Venom, Henry?
What?
It's so it's like one of the pre-orders, or if you want to explain it, you probably explain it better.
Someone please explain this, because it seems like you got like a dildo coming in the mail for like the Spider-Man game.
He may well do. I'd love Gene. I would love to hear you describe it.
It's so there was a pre-order, a specific pre-order where it's like the ultimate package, and there's like a statue that you could get when there's like digital, a steel book, other skins, but there's a statue you could get of like Venom fighting Spider-Man and Miles. And the way the PlayStation account tweeted this announcement out was like, they were like, Spider-Man Ultimate Edition, you could get 19 inches of Venom. And this is how they like announced it officially, and then it became a meme.
The
ultimate package. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a hashtag, all 19 inches of Venom.
All 19, yeah.
It doesn't help that he's a gloop monster who can grow bigger at will.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the internet already didn't need to be told, but you give them some ammo.
Yeah.
They will shoot off, I tell you that much.
Oh, man. Priceless reaction.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Is that what Deviant Art Spider-Man?
Probably, yeah. There probably is.
That's a better name than Marvel's Spider-Man.
Deviant Spider-Man. Oh my god. But yeah, I'll wait that statue. I'll probably post in your Discord when I get it. See all the 19.
Oh yeah,
ultimate package.
Eagerly anticipating that
19 inches of Venom. But yeah, just closing out our show. Where can people find you at? I know it's like weird right now with all the socials. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're on Blue Sky, we're on Instagram most of the time. Instagram's the place really. And but we're also on Tumblr. I'm sometimes on our podcast Twitter account.
X account.
And oh my god. Yeah, sorry, X account.
Yeah, there's
Elon Musk is probably listening, guys.
You can Yeah. Oh gosh. We're also on Tumblr. I post on Tumblr sometimes. And also, aside from the podcast, like I have No Context Spider-Man, which I post out of context Spider-Man panels from the comics, and that's on Twitter and Blue Sky and Instagram. I'm just trying to move everything away from Twitter, but like everyone is still on Twitter, so it's still there a little bit.
Yeah, we'll leave eventually, I guess.
Yeah,
it's nice out here.
Yeah,
yeah. Henry's been gone for like a couple of years. He's having a great time.
Yeah,
but there's also listen to our podcast, That 90s Spider-Man Show, on all the podcast places. And especially like if you you can hear us talk about Spider-Man the animated series, but also you can hear us talk about like the comics as well. We've been on topic with this game, like we've recently done some episodes on comics involving Craven, some of the weirder things with Craven, including
his son.
his many sons, his many sons.
One's an alien.
One is an alien, yes. And yeah, so there's a lot of crazy stuff going on there if you want to hear more about Craven. And also symbiotes, I guess. We talk about symbiotes. Like we've got some stuff on
was it I Love the Bit Disturbed or Symbiote?
Yeah, we have a bit in I can't remember what episode we did that in, but there's a clip out there as well made of it of is it the name of a symbiote or is it the name of a Disturbed song? And yeah.
Yeah, that was a good one. But yeah, no, great podcast. I've been on there too, so yeah. Definitely correct.
Yeah, our most recent episode, as of this recording, we're talking about comic book adaptations. We didn't actually talk about Insomniac Spider-Man, but we did talk about some other Spider-Man stuff, and we had Gene and Diego on. Henry wasn't there because, as we said, he was getting an education. So yeah, listen to that if you guys have listen to every Waffle Press episode and you need more Waffle Press.
There you go.
There you go.
But yeah, no, thank you. Yeah, no, thanks guys for being on. This was great. It's always cool talking to you, catching up, and then just having you on the show too, because it's like I love the tangents we go on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Good to be here, yeah.
I'm sorry for having us again.
Yeah, I'll definitely have to have you on again. But yeah, for the podcast, you could find us on you can find us for Twitter for however long that is at the Waffle Press, and then on Instagram at the Waffle Press Podcast. We're on iTunes, Spotify, SoundCloud, YouTube. Please like, share, subscribe. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. We've been professionally unprofessional.